Waking Up to Serenity, Unlocking the Door to Emotional Sobriety by Angelo. Chapter 10, Just for Today. I'd like to expand upon one of the tools mentioned in the previous chapter. The Just for Today card is a little piece of 12-step literature that can be very useful at all stages of recovery. The wording originates from a newspaper column from 1921, written by Frank Crane in the Boston Globe. The wording used in 12-step recovery is only slightly different from the original and reads as follows, quote, "Just for today, I will try to live through this day only and not tackle my whole life problem at once. I can do something for 12 hours that would appall me if I felt that I had to keep it up for a lifetime. Just for today, I will be happy. Most folks are as happy as they make their minds up to be. Just for today, I will adjust myself to what is and not try to adjust everything to my own desires. I will take my luck as it comes and fit myself to it. Just for today, I will try to strengthen my mind. I will study. I will learn something useful. I will not be a mental loafer. I will read something that requires effort, thought, and concentration. Just for today, I will exercise my soul in 3 ways. I will do someone a good turn and not get found out. If anyone knows of it, it will not count. I will do at least 2 things that I do not want to do, just for exercise. And I will not show anyone that my feelings are hurt. They may be hurt, but today I will not show it. Just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly, talk low, act courteously, criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody, except myself. Just for today, I will have a program. I may not follow it exactly, but I will have it. I will save myself from 2 pests, hurry and indecision. Just for today, I will have a quiet half hour all by myself and relax. During this half hour sometime, I will try to get a better perspective of my life. Just for today, I will be unafraid. Especially, I will not be afraid to enjoy what is beautiful and to believe that as I give to the world, so the world will give to me." Close quote. Well, these words provide a succinct summary of a daily life based on spiritual principles. The 9 ideas presented do not cover the whole 12-step program, but they do provide a useful guide. Some of them may seem challenging because they highlight the difference between self-centered thinking and selflessness, or between cushion 1 and cushion 3, between personal ego self and universal consciousness. Well, this is the whole point of the Just for Today card. Sometimes in early recovery, a sponsor will suggest picking one of these items at random each day in order to provide some short-term focus. Others suggest reading the card every day and using it to consciously try to think and behave differently. Many use it as part of their daily spiritual practice in order to prepare for the day ahead. Whatever use we may put it to, there's no doubt that the Just for Today card contains helpful daily guidance and also deep spiritual wisdom. It's worth investigating each of the 9 suggestions so that we can understand them literally and also spiritually. The overall concept of the Just for Today card is, of course, entirely identical to the idea of one day at a time, which is so important in early recovery. We remain abstinent just for today, one day at a time. The first of the 9 suggestions can be applied simply to abstinence or to any other aspect of our lives. By focusing just on the present day, we can cope with whatever challenges life may bring. It also means that we can more readily engage in daily spiritual practices without having to worry about future commitment. As recovery progresses, we become more present to life as it unfolds in the moment, and we can only ever act in the moment. It may seem irresponsible to live only for the moment, but this is the truth of life. We may make plans for the future, but even then such plans can only be made in the present moment. Future moments will come, and we can act then rather than worry about them now. There's tremendous opportunity for peace of mind once it becomes clear that universal consciousness is only ever vibrating right now. The past does not actually exist, even though it may seem to have reality due to the memories stored in the mind and body. The future cannot possibly exist because universal consciousness only ever arises and falls in the present moment. There is no time in the realm of consciousness. The whole world of creation flashes in and out of existence at speeds beyond comprehension, and there's only ever the eternal moment of now. Well, given this understanding, it makes complete sense that we can only experience life in the present moment. The personal ego mind is always stuck in the past or projecting into the future. We miss the content of our own lives because the mind is forever elsewhere. We need to be fully present in order to experience the richness of life. And the only way to do this is to step back from the personal ego self. Just for today. Just for now. The original wording of the Just for Today card referenced Abraham Lincoln as quoting that, quote, "Folks are usually about as happy as they make up their minds to be," close quote. Well, there's great truth in this saying. There's no doubt that personal attitudes and perspectives do make a difference to personal happiness. A good example is an attitude of gratitude that leaves us feeling grateful for what we have rather than unhappy at what is missing. At a deeper level, given that universal consciousness exists as it is from moment to moment, it can only be our personal opinions that determine whether or not we can find any happiness in a given circumstance. And such happiness can only be fleeting in any case, because circumstances are constantly changing. The only reliable source of happiness is consciousness itself. We can make up our minds to abide as universal consciousness, or we can at least decide to engage in spiritual practices that will lead us in this direction. In this regard, we really do have the ability to experience happiness, regardless of circumstances. The third suggestion is all about acceptance and going with the flow of life rather than fighting against it. The self-centered person will always want life to go in accordance with their own thinking and feeling. Well, this is obviously a recipe for disappointment and frustration, because life is only ever an expression of universal consciousness. Life will do whatever life wants to do, moment to moment. The purpose of life is for universal consciousness to experience and participate in its own creation. It's the personal ego self that causes all of the friction by insisting that the purpose of life is to satisfy its own agenda. This mistake in identity is the cause of all internal and external conflict. The personal ego self is at odds with its own source and its own true nature. The wise advice is therefore to adjust ourselves to what is, rather than continuing to fight an unnecessary and pointless battle. The next idea is about remaining teachable and open-minded. The little point in reading and studying materials that reinforce our existing thinking and beliefs. It's our current conditioned thinking and belief system that is causing suffering for ourselves and for others. The suggestion is to challenge the status quo by reading something different. This means letting go of self-righteousness. This is an exercise in behaving as though we are not closed-minded. The deepest wisdom is that there is only one ultimate truth. All religions and spiritual traditions point to this one truth in a multitude of different ways. Doctrine restricts this wisdom. We need to take off the blinkers and see the bigger picture. The idea of exercising our soul is really about letting go of the personal ego self. Doing things that we don't want to do is precisely the point. The human mind is selfish and necessarily driven by self-centered fear. If this is all that we think we are, then this will be the dominant motivation. Doing a good turn for someone else is a selfless act. Doing such a thing without recognition removes any possibility of personal motive. It's an act of unconditional love, which arises from universal consciousness. Overcoming self-centered fear and doing things that feel uncomfortable is also a useful exercise. There could be no change inside of our comfort zone, and usually the outcome is never as bad as we fear. The suggestion here is to do two things that feel uncomfortable rather than just one. The more we do this, the better. And the final suggestion relates to overcoming hurt feelings. Well, this obviously relates directly to emotional sobriety. We tend to think that hurt feelings are valid because they certainly feel real. What we overlook is the fact that we experience hurt feelings only because we take things personally. We're still stuck at cushion one. It is this constant personal self-reference that causes these emotions. By allowing them to pass without reaction, we are practicing letting go of the personal ego self. And we've seen that self-forgetting is one of the key spiritual practices and is the basis of step 12. Well, all three of these soul exercises fall into this category. Suggestion number 6 is all about humility. We've admitted our brokenness and are willing to let go of the personal ego self in favour of universal consciousness. And the behaviours suggested are all expressions of humility. Agreeable, presentable, humble, courteous, non-critical, non-interfering, and focused only on self-regulation. This is not intended to be about personal self-improvement. This is about self-awareness leading to self-forgetting. The use of the word program in the next suggestion does not mean the 12-step program, but instead references a daily schedule. This may seem inconsistent with the idea of living in the moment, but the two are not incompatible. It's a matter of practicalities to have some sort of schedule for the day. It may change as the day progresses, but some structure is helpful. The key is not to overcommit and spend our time rushing from one thing to the next. It makes sense to build in some contingency and some downtime. We often create our own stresses by trying to do too much in a given day. If we do this, then our minds are constantly very busy and we miss the present moment. We get lost in the activity of cushion 1 and overlook the deeper states. An unnecessary hurry is certainly a pest, and so too is indecision. But decisions are easy if we are abiding more at cushion 3 in universal consciousness. Life always knows what it wants to do next. Item 8 is simply the suggestion of meditation. We covered the significance of meditation previously. The important thing is not so much how we practice, but rather that we do practice meditation on a daily basis. The suggestion here is for half an hour of quiet time and the practice of self-reflection or self-contemplation. We gain perspective by stepping back and observing from a deeper place within ourselves. We drop back from cushion 1 to cushion 2. The more we do this, the more proficient we become. Practice may not necessarily make perfect, but the benefits of meditation will accrue over time. The final suggestion comprises 3 important elements. The first suggestion is that we be unafraid. Well, this is not easy for the personal ego self, but it is easy from the perspective of universal consciousness. Cushion 3 is non-personal, therefore cushion 3 has nothing to be afraid of. In order to be unafraid, we simply have to abide as consciousness. The second idea is that we enjoy what is beautiful. Well, the whole of creation is beautiful and temporary, and we can only enjoy it in the moment. Our experience is coloured by our unique VR headset of perception. In order to really enjoy beauty, we need to be present with a clear mind. This implies abiding more deeply in universal consciousness, so that the mind becomes less agitated. And finally, we have the idea of selfless giving and the flow of universal consciousness. As we abide more deeply as cushion 3, so the flow of loving qualities becomes increasingly natural. And vibrational resonance attracts more of the same, and the world seems to freely give the very things that we had previously spent our whole lives chasing. We do indeed reap what we sow. The various suggestions of the Just for Today card are really just different flavours of the same fundamental idea. Each of them is intended to reduce the dominance of the personal ego self and move the identity increasingly towards our own source, which is universal consciousness. These practices are entirely consistent with the spiritual principles of the 12-step program, and hence can be seen as an important tool in the overall toolkit of recovery.